The staff is the 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on which music is written. Staff, sometimes called stave. The clef is how high your high notes are in the treble clef and your low notes are in the bass clef. Pitch is how high or low notes are, and you can see that higher pitches are higher up on the staff. Rhythm is how long or short the notes are, so a crotchet is a 1-beat note. I could make that into a quaver, and I get 2 shorter notes. I could even make it into a semi-quaver and make it even shorter and get more into that space, but that's changing the rhythm. Time signature, there are 2 notes, two numbers. The top number is how many beats in the bar. 1, 2, 3, 4 beats, and the beat is the underlying pulse of the music. Pulse, 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 pulse. The bottom number actually stands for this note, and I'll explain that to you now when we talk about the different types of rhythm. The code for semibreve is 1, because 1 semibreve will take up the entire bar. The code, or bottom number, for minim is 2, because it takes 2 semibreves to fill up the entire bar. The code for crotchet is 4, because it takes 4 semibreves to fill the entire bar, and that's why the bottom number here is 4. The top number is the number of beats in a bar. I could have 3, 4, and watch how it changes things. Change that to 3, 4, and notice there's now only 3 crotchets in every bar before there's a bar line. I neglected to point out before that that's a bar. A number of notes grouped together, that's a bar, and this is the bar line, the thing that separates them. So I'm going to go back to 4/4 time because that's a lot prettier. And the quaver lasts for just a half a beat, so it takes 8 of them to fill the bar. So if I had 4/8, I'd have 4 quavers in the bar. So the bottom number is code for the note that gets 1 beat. Most of the time the notes are arranged in a scale like this. I'll pretend that this is not an F for a second. Get rid of that word. So if I wanted to start on C, notice how I start down here on the bottom line. Space is D, E is on the line, F is the space, G, A, B, C. It goes line, space, line, and it would continue D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But for this one, I've actually spaced them out so that you can see what just the notes in the spaces are, and that one should be up there on E. The notes in treble clef for the spaces spells out the word face. The notes on the line for treble clef spell out E, G, B, D, F. Put that back to a crotchet for the joy of being a crotchet. So they spell out, could be every good boy deserves fruit. There's lots of other ones you might have learned, but that's an E, that's a G, and so on and so forth. In the bass clef, the lower notes, A, C, E, and G spell out all cows eat grass, that's a way to remember it, and good bikes don't fall apart. So this is for the bass clef. It's different. Even though it looks exactly the same, because we put a clef on it, that has set what the notes are. So that is different for treble and bass clef. The last thing to mention here is the sharps and flats. So if I take a note like F and I add a sharp to it, it's going to be a semitone higher. Hear how the sound changed, and I would have to label that as F sharp. If I took a note like A and added a flat to it, listen, again, it goes down a semitone. I don't really have a flat symbol, so I just put a little B, but it is like that, a flat. And let's pretend again that this was a C. So if I use, if I put a sharp on this C, watch what happens. Because I'm in the same bar as that other C, the C sharp changes. That's a C sharp now, but that becomes a C natural. A C natural cancels out the sharp and just goes back to a plain old C. So I'm just making sure you've got the note names right, rather the parts of the note. If you've got a semibreve or any other note, you'll have a note head. That's the note head. Once you get through minims and any note shorter than that, you get a stem. This part is called the stem. And once you get down to quavers, whether it's right side up or upside down, you have a stem and you've got a flag or a tail. Either one is correct.